that as a government official, you can't work with 20%, don't go for that office. It's like being told to be a Catholic priest, you have to be celibate, you're not going to marry. Don't go and then become a Catholic priest and then start saying, now I want to marry when I'm inside here. Because you knew before you went in. So this is what we want to set as a trend, that anybody who occupies government will know that for you to be president in Kenya, we work under such limits.
Kinodia,
yes.
I'm asking, what is the formula for that arrives at 20%?
Our formula?
How did you get to 20%?
Well, I'll tell you. How we got to 20% was very simple. What do we want with our salary? Why do we work? Otherwise, we are going to resign. We want to have money at our disposal to do the things that matter to us, not the things that matter to government. And Kenyans have to get to a point where they put their lives before the lives of government.
Okay. What is
so what matters to me as a Kenyan is I want what I earn is going directly into the things that are important to me as a Kenyan. And I told you, to buy my son a tennis ball, there are Kenyans who don't...
Do you want your son to go to school?
You see, we are already paying school fees for our children.
It's okay. Yes. You want your son to go to school?
Yes.
You want your son to go to school using a road? Is it your private road or public road?
It's a public road.
You want your son to access other services?
Yes.
Are there services that are public that you want your son to access?
Yes.
How do you want to finance those?
I'll tell you. It's very simple. That's why I started by saying direct taxation, and then we have indirect taxation. A clever government can deal with the other things through indirect taxation. They will still get my money anyway. They will still go and add 5 shillings to the tea leaves. They will still go and add 5 shillings to the milk. But what we are trying to do is for certainty purposes. I don't want to go to my bank today, take a loan of 100,000 or 200,000 and then come and renegotiate with them 6 months down the line because the salary I was earning has been affected by government and they did not consult me or my bank. I had taken a loan and I told the bank I can comfortably pay you 20,000 a month. And then now government comes and reduces the 20,000 that I would have paid per month to another 13 or 12. So I have to start looking for 8,000. And I start doing other things and reporting to work late because I was selling mitumba at night. What we need to do is to create that certainty that what is taxable direct is this amount of money. We are not affecting indirect taxation. And again, we have also made it very clear that government must not only make roads because they taxed us. After all, what is the working population in Kenya? What is the percentage of people who are on formal payroll? It is very little. So this taxation is unfair to the teachers, is unfair to the few, that percentage of Kenyans that is working in formal sector where the money is deducted from the salary. We have to think of other ways to run government other than taxing people. And governments are doing it. I have already given examples. Germany is succeeding because they sell Mercedes to us.
Germany does not manufacture Mercedes. A company in Germany manufactures Mercedes.
Yes, but government taxes those vehicles before they
so there's taxation again.
It's taxation. But on what? On what? On products that are leaving the country.
So what we are doing here... The source of government money is tax.
But not necessarily raising people's salaries.
But is there any country on this planet that doesn't tax its people?
We are not saying, and this is where people fail to understand us, we are not saying that we do not want to be taxed. What we are saying that it is possible to run government by looking for money from any other sources other than killing people with taxation. What we have now is servitude, where people work and then at the end of the month, they don't have anything left to even develop themselves. And when you think about where the money is going, for example, now when you think about the 3% that is going to housing, for example, if you research on how much government takes from one bag of cement or from one iron sheet, you realize that if you reduce the cost of cement, the cost of iron sheet and timber and everything, we shall build our own houses for ourselves. The reason why houses are being called unaffordable is because the things that we use to build those houses have already been made so expensive by government taxes. If we reduce the cost of cement, if we reduce the cost of timber, if we reduce the cost of this building, because how is government houses affordable? They are still buying cement at very expensive rates and building. It is affordable because it is being taken from people's pockets and built for other people. And then these people are being told to occupy these houses. Lower the cost of cement, lower the cost of timber, lower the cost of nails. We shall build our own houses for ourselves. We've always done it. All the houses built in Kenya since independence were not built by government.
Okay. We have a population of what, 53 million?
Yes.
Kenya Bureau of Statistics tells us that of these, 19 million are in employment. Around 15 million are in employment in the informal sector. Only 3 point something percent are in the formal sector.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So even if you're in the informal sector and your salary is below the threshold that is actually taxable, the informal taxes will get you.
Yeah.
Okay? So in short, everybody gets taxed. The topic of taxation in this country cannot be had without looking at where we are and where we get our money from. The moment you enter that particular sphere of borrowing from international lenders, then a lot of what you're going to end up doing have nothing to do with what you want to do. It is what they tell you to do and how they go about telling you to do it. Now, whether everything the government does is in line with what they were told to do, but the truth of the matter is that these are experiences we've had before, what we call structural adjustment programs from the Bretton Woods institutions. And if you look across this continent, I'm not going to go to another continent. Well, I should. Because if I look at a country like Greece and what they went through when they went to these same institutions, they tax the living daylights out of the citizens. We are in a situation that perhaps we haven't experienced before, and there's a generation that does not know how exactly these institutions work. An older generation, which is represented by an ancient creature like myself, we understand this full well because it is our lived experience. Now, we cannot have that discussion without it. The other discussion we must have is the pain that you feel is your taxes are supposed to go towards certain things that the government is mandated to do for us. And when they don't do it, you then dig into your pocket to fund the very same things that the government was supposed to have done. So you then question the reason why it is you're paying those taxes when you're still having to pay for them again. Now, with this matter that you've taken to court, what is the prayer? What is it that you want the courts to afford you? And if they do afford you, what will it achieve?
Okay, I think I had listed them. The first one, as I said, is we don't want new taxes being implemented anyhow. You wake up in the morning, there's a new tax, because then you're not you can't plan your life that way. You can't plan even for your old plan and retirement and everything. When you wake up in the morning, there's a house tax, there's a cabbage tax, there's a cow tax, there's a monkey tax, there's a dog tax. So that needs to stop. We need to have taxes being predictable. Let there be, at least even have a time frame and say, maybe at the beginning of the financial year, that's when the new taxes will be introduced and debated in Parliament.
Are you suggesting that there should be public participation before we are taxed?
In fact, our public participation is not so good because sometimes we do it and then nothing that is captured in public participation ends up there. For example, who said they want the cost of electricity to go up? But there was public participation and it went up. And so public participation sometimes is not helping us. They bring it there as a show. But I don't remember a Kenyan raising their hand and saying, yes, I want the cost of fuel to go up. But they usually say they did public participation. So number two, we were saying, so other than the new taxes, we were talking about the KRA officials coming to your home and giving you a notice. Let them not just come arbitrarily, because then it creates resentment and hatred towards these people. You're just coming anyhowly, I'm doing what I'm doing. I have to stop everything and accommodate you and allow you to start counting my cows, my chicken, and so on and so forth. The other one we were talking about was we did not want adoption of the Bomas report. I think I mentioned that because one of the things it was supposed to have done using our money was to come up with measures on cost of living, which it never did. So discussing it and adopting it is useless for Kenyans. It is only good for politicians because it is being discussed on those matters that are good for the politicians. Then we said we had talked about evictions in that petition. Like, we do not want the Gekamori evictions to go on, where people are being evicted from houses they have afforded and they have title and sanctity of titles they have actually borrowed with. In fact, some of these people will tell you, and they have said it on national TV severally, that to even build there, they had to get permits from the county government, and they paid for those permits. They have borrowed loans using those title deeds, and those title deeds are in the banks. Now, then you come and tell them that you want to evict them from there and build for them other affordable houses. It doesn't make sense. So our petition is on all those things. But the principal one is on taxation.
Fanya mambo.
Yes.
This issue of evictions is a really thorny one, and I personally feel the utmost pain one can feel on other people's behalf. Yeah. But many of these evictions are on properties that we are informed or we're told these people who are living had no right to live in the first place. Now, what is the government supposed to do in such situations? Today we're reading about one particular family that owns a huge tract of land. They're saying they're not really this thing of evicting people. Yeah, Taita people are evicted. The Karima family that was saying they don't particularly want to evict. They're seeing this, they find a way around it. The one which happened here, just in our neighbor Okoh here, in that
EAPCC, Portland.
Yes. Portland. Now, the government, that's government property really. Now, you wonder, your argument would fall squarely within that. That was already government land. The government had a say. Should the government not have considered other means other than the eviction? I mean, what I'm saying is, I hear what you're saying. But again, for a conversation to make sense, we must look at the bigger problem. How did we get to a position where people were building on land that they shouldn't have built in the first place? Because that is an issue.
I think my explanation is simple. The sanctity of title. When these people come with a title deed that went through the entire government process for them to have them, and when the county government comes and levies them money you pay for the permit to construct, and there are schools there, and there are hospitals there, like what you saw in Mavoko, and there are churches there, and these people have paid every license they needed to pay to be existing. And the county government is perpetually and continually collecting license fees from these people. How then do you come and tell them that they're in the wrong place? Why would you license someone to build in a place as a county government, knowing that that is government land? So I think what needed to happen is what I studied in Tanzania. I started my law degree here for 2 years, Catholic University, and finished at University of Dar es Salaam. And there's something they called land regularization. You get to the point where you say, this is where we are. Okay. So moving forward, we will not allow horrible things to happen.
Yes.
But from where we are, those people who are on government land, they even came on national TV and said, if there is an amount we can pay, and we are given up, we shall pay.
They did.
Yes. So what we need to do is to do what Tanzania did. And that's why they are a very peaceful nation. You do land regularization, where you say, from what has happened, it won't happen again. But from where we sit, it will be more expensive. Now we've lost a lot more billions in evicting those people in terms of how do you even take your kids to school and you're outside in the rain? So we do regularization. We make them pay for that. Government still owns a lot of land. Compensate East Africa Portland with any other land and so on and so forth using that money, but do not cause human suffering in the interest of trying to acquire back land.
So you can start a theft knowing that there'll be regularization of that theft.
No. You see, I have always said this. Sometimes as a nation, you look at what is meaningful. And when you talk about, for example, human dignity in Article 28 of the Constitution, you cannot start saying about tomorrow. You have to think about now. And human dignity right now dictates that don't throw a man and their children outside in the rain in the name of acquiring land for a Portland company. I mean, all they mine is that pozzolana, which can be found in many other parts of...
Wakili, this is a sensitive issue.
Yes.
But there are certain realities that as Kenyans we must face. It's a matter we discuss at great length here. The notices that were provided, people being warned. There are many things. There are many stories that we've heard about this. We Kenyans also have a tendency of liking to take shortcuts. We perhaps get duped. And there are those who argue that it is easy to convince someone to do wrong when they're already inclined towards it. Okay? I agree. There should be a humane way of dealing with such matters. Now, was that matter handled in the best way possible? I think not. How do you cure Kenyans from taking steps where inevitably, remember it started off with people building on road reserves. Remember that one?
Yes. And railway reserves.
Yes, and railway reserves. And everybody has reserves. Now we've got a situation where we are being told that in the Ministry of Land, you even find leases being changed, titles being changed, all manner of things happening. Leases that should be automatically be renewed. Suddenly finds people are in your compound because they say your lease has come to an end. I'm simply saying there's a lot that you hear and you wonder, surely. Now, what you're saying makes sense. But if you regularize, as you say, what message are you saying to other people who are that way inclined towards doing, or the squatters who are inclined towards occupying other people's land?
I have always asked only one question. If a private company came and took 2,000 acres of land and fenced them, and they were selling each parcel to any person who comes as long as they pay, do you think it is possible that a person will come and acquire a parcel of land in that private, say Vipingo or wherever, or Thika Greens, in a corrupt way? Do you think it is possible for someone to come, for example, and own a piece of Thika Greens without the management knowing, or without them knowing, or without them having sold?
Yeah.
If you were to build 52 apartments here, do you think it is possible that one unit will be occupied by somebody and you don't know, and you're the one who is selling the 52 apartments? It only happens in government. What am I trying to say? We have the wrong managers. If you put the right, and I said here, if you put the right minister for land, if you put the right people in the right places, in the right spaces of government, what will happen is that ultimately nothing will go wrong. Because I am telling you, it is, have you ever heard of ghost workers here at SpiceFM? How many do you have?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Ghost workers.
Yes, in Standard. We've heard of people telling us we have ghost workers. But we can't claim to have seen the ghost ourselves.
Yes.
But if you're talking about hearing, we have heard.
You've heard.
Yes.
But what we are trying to say is that exactly, that in a private entity, it is extremely hard to hear that somebody built 60
There are more
apartments for
controls
sale,
that work.
and one of the apartments is being lived by somebody, and that person didn't pay for them, and he owns it, and he's
So
there.
because the controls or the systems are in place that would disallow such behavior is what you're saying.
You put complacent people to achieve what you want to achieve.
Sounds to me like your petition, Kinuthia, is more of seeking the attention of the public towards certain matters. Because this is it's an omnibus of an application.
It is.
On one hand, you're talking about tax and tax capping on tax. That is touching on one particular piece of legislation. On another one, you're talking about KRA and its own internal procedures on how they come to you and when they should come. That's another piece of legislation. You're talking about evictions. That's another piece of legislation. And then all of them, you're touching on the Bill of Rights and various articles of the Bill of Rights. It's I don't know. This just sounds like just an omnibus thing that you've thrown to the courts so that it then gets public attention. Do you really expect
To what end?
something to come out of this?
If unfortunately we are looking for public attention, there are many other things we could do, including going to the streets and doing some funny things.
Tying
we can
yourself
do.
to the gates of
tying
Parliament.
ourselves to our gates of Parliament and so on and so forth. That's not what we are looking for.
What do
That's
you
why
want
we went
here?
to the courts. What we want, as I said, and I'll keep repeating, is we want certainty. We want to be able to plan our money. We don't want to wake up tomorrow morning, there's a cabbage. That's why I said the first item on the taxation issue is we do not want the introduction of any new taxes in Kenya right now. Because you cannot have a situation where in
and
5
right now
years
is how,
you
is
have
how long?
Yeah?
Right now is
Unfortunately, there's something we are fighting, because when we filed under certificate of urgency, it's the first time we are seeing a constitutional petition filed under certificate of urgency being given a mention after 6 months, because this is going to be in June. So we are already fighting that, because government wants to continue collecting money from Kenyans arbitrarily and introducing new taxes by the time June is here. So and maybe to the people in this room it may look like an omnibus, but to every other Kenyan out there, they are saying, "Enyewe ile shida niko nayo, I have gone to a SACCO, I have asked for a loan, we have agreed on the terms and how much I'll be paying them," and then you wake up one morning and the next thing you know is your salary has reduced. And now you have to go and renegotiate with the SACCO and tell them, wait a minute, when we started, this is how things were. And then in May, there was this new tax, my salary reduced. In July, there was this new tax, my salary reduced. In December, they're proposing another one, my salary is going to reduce, so you have to negotiate again with the SACCO. We want that certainty of knowing that my taxes is capped at this for direct taxation.
Fanyamambo Kinuthia, thank you very much for joining us. Fanyamambo is a lawyer. He's one of the 8 people who've gone to court on that particular application that he's been talking about. Asante sana for joining us. Come again soon.
Thank you very much for having me on the first day of the year.
And thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room on this, our first day of the year. It's the 8th of January, but it's a first for us. Have a lovely day. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m.
completed exams in 2023 will know their fate the second week of January. Now, the 2023 KCSE results are significant as they align with the introduction of a new grading scheme designed to increase university admissions. If now the results are currently being released, you're following up on that. We'll be bringing you the very latest in a subsequent news bulletin. Now, Coast Region has got a new police commander in changes announced by police headquarters following the eviction of residents that happened in Voi Taita Taveta. Also affected were police commanders in Taita Taveta and Voi Sub-County. Former Northeastern Regional Police Commander George Seda was named the new Coast Commander. Seda replaced Kenneth Kimani, who was recalled to police headquarters. Seda has been leading operations in Boni Enclave and was ordered to take over in Mombasa. And Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale has condemned the supply of shisha in Kenya, asserting that anyone involved in such activities should face legal consequences irrespective of their social or political standing. Duale emphasized that individuals running shisha establishments, commonly known as shisha dens, should be held accountable for their actions without any special considerations based on their political affiliations. Duale made it clear that the law should apply uniformly, emphasizing regardless of status and political affiliation, owners of shisha dens must face the law. The joint operation to crack down on shisha smoking was carried out by officials from the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse and the police force. Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei has challenged top government officials from Rift Valley to deliver on their mandate instead of focusing on supremacy battles and political succession in President William Ruto's backyard. Cherargei claimed that some political and government leaders in the region were concentrating on the supremacy battles as if Ruto was about to exit from power. He said among the Kalenjin community, it was a taboo to discuss the succession of a person who is still in power and alive. Cherargei has been engaged in a lengthy public spat with Road CS Kipchumba Murkomen over what he terms as poor performance by the CS. And Narok Senator Ledamo Lekin has raised a red flag over alleged grand misuse of public funds and abuse of office by Governor Patrick Olentutu. Speaking to the media at his Okoh home after meeting with his new Senate oversight team, Olekin alleged that Family Engineering, a Nairobi-based company, was awarded 1.6 billion shillings tender to supply earth-moving equipment for Narok County, but efforts to stop it were thwarted. The Dama says he gave him 21-day notice to produce all payment records for verification, singling out tourism, where he claimed a massive drop of international bookings due to increased prices and runaway corruption. And a 26-year-old man has been locked up at the Sega police station after he was arrested for allegedly possessing 7 sacks of bang in Ugenya sub-county. The 26-year-old is expected to be arraigned in court today. The man, who has been identified as Jared Okoh Abusheri, was transporting the commodity on a motorcycle when police officers who were on patrol intercepted him along Sega Ugunja Road. The officers stopped the suspect, who was speeding, and established that the luggage that he was carrying was several brooms of cannabis sativa, which was stuffed in several sacks. And the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has arrested 5 suspects linked to the selling of contraband milk powder. According to the investigative body, the 5 were arrested in Isli, Nairobi, following an undercover operation. DCI says they had some of their officers posed as buyers and made a deal with the suspects to buy milk products worth 815,000 shillings. The officers, who only had a down payment, are said to have requested the furious sellers to let them get the balance, which provided leeway to call in the investigative teams and arrest the suspects. On a sad note, at least 16 people were injured after an accident today along the Narok-Bomet Road. The National Police Service reports that a head-on collision between a matatu and a lorry resulted in 6 serious injuries and 10 slight ones. The victims were rushed to Narok County Referral Hospital for treatment. NPS officers from Ololunga Police Station are processing the scene of the accident. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.9 SpiceFM, Mombasa.
best music.
94.4. You're listening to Spice FM.
Back to the music.